Hello, I'm David Hunt and welcome to Ben TV. My guest today is a powerhouse within the LGBTIQ community, and there's so many things we can talk about him. He was president of Globe. If you don't know what Globe is, you'll find out all about it. It's such an important organisation. He is also co-president currently of the Melbourne Queer Film Festival. He's originally from Malta. No, he's not. He went back to Malta as a little kid and then came back almost as if he grew up in Malta, but he was born here in Australia. He is a lecturer at RMIT and is studying to get his PhD because he just wants to be a doctor. I'm thrilled to actually talk about this man today, who I met when he was president at Globe. David Micallef, welcome to Ben TV.
Thank you for having me, David.
It's my pleasure. Now, let's get stuck into it. You as a kid, what were you like? Obnoxious or were you a nice kid?
I was the nice. I'm one of three. I'm the middle child.
Right.
And Mum will tell you I was always the good one. I was always.
But she'd tell that to all the kids, wouldn't she?
Oh, and I always liked helping Mum and Dad out. I always loved school, so I always did well. Although I used to always get the report back from my teachers that David's really good. A class finishes his work really quickly, but then just annoys everyone else. And Mum would say, well, maybe you need to give him more. Keep him occupied.
Yeah. Now, your family are originally from where?
They're from Malta, so both my parents are Maltese.
Right, and your surname, which is very sort of Irishy, because Malta and England have got a strong connection.
They do. So a lot of English heritage in Malta. So my surname, Micallef, the origins of that, I believe, came from the Irish surname Micallef.
Now, what happened? You went back there as a young child, is that right?
Yes, I was born here. And when I was 3, my parents went to Malta. They took us to Malta, me and my brother. My sister wasn't born at the time. And we went there for what was supposed to be a holiday. And my parents became very nostalgic about being back home and decided to stay. And so we ended up staying there for 7 years. And my sister was born in Malta in 85, so we went there about 81 and came back in 88.
Why did they come back?
They came back after having after they had my sister. They came back because they realised just the opportunities for us in Australia. So they decided that there would be better opportunities for us here, for the kids here. So they decided to come back.
Okay. As a kid, how old were you when they came back?
I was 11.
11. Were you happy to come back, or had you forgotten what Australia was like? Or
I'd definitely forgotten what Australia was like, and I can't say I didn't want to come back or that I was happy to leave. It didn't really register kind of either way. It was like, and my parents said, we're doing this. And it was going to be a big adventure. And I remember we stopped in the UK on the way back, and I've got family there as well. And we stayed with my cousins for a week for the flight, and it was just one whole big adventure.
Right. Yeah. Okay. And your English was pretty good, because in Malta you learn English and what's the language called?
Maltese.
Oh, it is Maltese.
It is Maltese. Yeah.
Because I was going to say Maltese, and I thought I might not be Maltese. Okay. And you actually said it's a combination of.
So it is like if Arabic and Italian had a baby.
Right.
Because it does take from both. So it is quite interesting. So I can listen to people speaking Arabic, and I can understand I'll understand the gist of the conversation and some words. And similar with Italian, they borrow so many words from the Italian language. So it's a nice mix of the two.
Yeah. And you're like, so okay, the adventure, but all of a sudden you had to start going to school, meeting all new friends and all that. Was that okay?
It was difficult. I think when I reflect on it now, the thing that I really miss, having done primary school, most of primary school in Malta, and then doing high school in Australia. The one thing that I did miss that I saw in a lot of other friends is those relationships that they had built from, people who they had been in the same class with since prep, and not having that connection with anyone was difficult.
Yep.
Also, compound on that the Maltese accent is not the nicest sounding.
Oh, okay.
Especially when Maltese people are speaking English in a Maltese accent. So there was I remember one of my teachers in grade 5 used to give me these exercises to do to pronounce things in the Australian way and without the Maltese accent, because it was definitely the source of teasing.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So here you are, you're like having problems, like settling into a new life in a new country per se. When did you realise you might be gay?
So I think I always, to some degree, knew. I mean, I remember, as far back as being in primary school and kind of being attracted to other friends, male friends, and even in high school, like you go through the motions as a teenager. You ask a girl out, ask them if they're going to the social, and go through those motions. But then at the same time, I would I'd be sitting there in class and fantasizing about other guys in the class or someone I'd seen on TV.
And did you know about gay then? Did you realise what it was?
No, definitely not throughout high school. And having been, I went through the Catholic school system, and there was definitely nothing in there around sexuality at all. And so I never actually made, and you would see reports on TV. I still remember this. Actually, I'll tell you about two funny moments that just kind of shows the disconnection that I had in my head. Me and my best friend, used to do what teenage boys do, and mess around, but then we would see reports on the TV, about gay people, and we'd go, "Oh, yuck!"
Oh no!
And I still also remember this quite embarrassing moment in class with a few of my friends, and I was probably maybe year 7, year 8, would have been about 13, 14. And I remember just telling my friends, "Oh my God, I had this dream last night that we were all making out." And they just looked at me and went, "That's a bit weird."
Oh yeah. How did you get out of it, or did you just move on?
Laughed it off.
Right. Okay.
But had never kind of made the connection in my head that what I was thinking actually meant that I was gay.
Yeah. Yeah.
And even though I had heard about gay people before, and knew essentially what the term gay was, did not connect that that's what I was feeling. And it was only really until kind of later years in high school and my first year of university that I did start to realise that actually what I'm actually feeling and what I'm kind of thinking about, that's what that is.
Yeah.
And it was the exposure, but mostly when I went to university.
I'm sure it would be, because there would have been the gay groups and
the gay groups and the newspapers. So I still remember. So at university, so I went to RMIT, and I was doing hospitality studies there, and I was there every single day. Wednesday was the day that I actually had no classes with any of my friends. So the group of people who I kind of met, I had a day on Wednesday where I did not have any classes with them, and I had nominated that as my gay day. Oh. So that was the day where I used to pick up, and they used to come out on alternate Wednesdays. 1 week, Brother Sister would come out, if you remember that newspaper.
Yep.
The other one was Melbourne Community Voice. It used to come out, and I may have the name wrong, but it was on the alternate Wednesday. And so I would always pick that up from the university, have a read through it, either during one of my breaks, or I would read it on the way home on the train, and then throw it in the bin before I got home.
Yeah.
But that was always my gay day.
Right.
Where I was kind of exploring kind of what I had been feeling.
So here you are down the track. I'm guessing it's a fair way down the track, because you were studying hospitality, but then you moved over, didn't you?
I moved into communication. So I finished my undergrad in hospitality, but in my second year of hospitality, I did an elective subject in public relations, and just totally fell in love with the public relations and communications marketing field. And I remember my lecturer for that subject actually came to me at the end of the semester and said, you really should think about a career in communications. And so I ended up going back to do a postgrad and a master's in communications, and Master of Art.
Right. And that's the path you followed then?
Yeah.
What did you do when you left uni?
So when I left uni, actually went to work. Initially started doing some event work, but then I went overseas for a few years. So I did
Don't most Australians?
Yes.
Where did you go? Malta?
So I did some time in the US. I actually did part of my study in the US.
Okay.
Part of my postgrad I actually did at the University of Florida in Gainesville. And then I did some time in Malta, where I was there I was on holiday. I go back to Malta at least every couple of years. And I had just finished my postgrad. I was in Malta for a holiday, and being, a 24-year-old who thinks they can do anything and everything, I was there on holidays, and I was reading one of the English language newspapers in Malta, the Malta Independent. And I was reading the articles, and I turned to my cousin and I go, I can write better than this. And I gave the editor a call and said, do you have any jobs? And he goes, well, good timing. My court reporter just resigned today. Do you want to come in for an interview and a writing test? And a couple of weeks later, I was their new court reporter.
Fantastic. And so how long did you do that for?
So I stayed there. I was there for about 6 months.
Right.
Before I, as a court reporter, before coming back. But then soon after, I worked a little bit here, and then went off on a longer working oloday to the UK, and spent nearly 3 years in the UK.
Right. Okay.
Working in news, and then in public relations.
Right. Brilliant.
Yeah.
So back here, when was the first Globe meeting that you went to?
So I'd been to Globe a couple of times throughout the year.
I'll just explain to people if they don't know, what is Globe? What does it stand for?
So Globe is the Gay and Lesbian Organisation of Business and Enterprise, and it's a professional networking group for LGBTIQ people. So they hold monthly events, monthly networking events. Essentially for people who really are interested, a lot of small business owners, a lot of professionals, a really good way to meet people and kind of network and build your networks professionally as well. And I've been to a few events throughout my early gay years. I'd lost touch with the group for a while, and I'd been concentrating on my career. I'd been doing traveling, and kind of was doing a lot of that. And then I had a realization on one of my trips. I was in the US. I was in Atlanta, and I was doing the thing that I think most gay people do when they're on holidays. that the first thing I did as soon as I landed in Atlanta, which I did in every single city, was I got out my computer, looked up all the gay spots, got the map and was marking, this is where all the gay bars are, this is where the gay bookshop is, this is where the cafes are, these are the places that I need to go. And I kind of came to this realization, why do I not do that back in Melbourne? You know, it had been years since I've been to any gay events, so I'd been part of any gay groups, and I just came to this realization that I'm always focused within, when I travel to check out the gay scene, but was not doing that at home. So
why, David? Have you worked it out, or is that a little bit too deep that you didn't do it back here?
I think it was more that when I'm home, I've always had a really big network of family and friends.
Had you come out by that stage with family?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so at that stage, so
it wasn't that? It wasn't, no?
No, so I had come out, and I came out early. I was, early-ish. I was about 19 when I came out to my family. But by the time I joined Globe, which was much later, and joined their board, which was in my 30s, I had kind of lost contact with the gay community, mainly because I just found a lot of my friends were the people who I worked with, my family and my friendship circle. And so I was always busy when I was home, which I always am. But then when I went overseas, I think you have a luxury, I think, sometimes in the gay community, that there is a community you can go to, which I don't think if you're straight that you get that.
No.
When you travel, that the gay community is quite welcoming,
Yeah.
and that you can and that you do seek that out when you go
Actually,
overseas.
a really good point. I think that's a good point. Yeah. So, have you had a partner?
I have, but never a long-term partner. So I've had boyfriends over the years. I've had ex-boyfriends who I'm actually really, really good friends with, and really good friends with them and their partners. And I've got one of my exes, Brian. Him and his partner, he's Canadian. Him and his partner live in Los Angeles now, and if they're here, they'll always come and visit. I'll go and stay with them if I'm in LA. But never myself have I had a long-term relationship.
Okay. Was that maybe the reason you started to go to Globe?
It was. I always joke that I joined Globe to find myself a husband, and just end up finding more work. Because it's something that I do that I think wherever I am,
you can't
I have
help
to
yourself.
Help out.
Yeah. So you became part of one of the committees, and then that led to being on the board?
So I actually joined the board straight away, and it was...
okay.
So I remember sending an email to Globe while I was still in Atlanta, and I was on holidays in the US, and because as soon as I get something in my head, I'm like, I'm going to do something right now. So I had always... because I'd been to Globe a few times and I always felt really comfortable there. I sent them an email straight away saying, do you need any help? Looking to help out at Globe. And I got an email back really within a couple of hours saying, yep, can always use more help. Let us know when you're back. And then I contacted them when I was back in Melbourne and said, we've got a committee meeting coming up next Tuesday. Do you want to come to the meeting? And so I went. They asked me if I wanted to join the committee. I met everyone. Micallef and Peter were president and vice president at the time, and I joined the committee, and then and just kind of started helping out wherever I could. There was an AGM that happened about 3 months after I joined, and I remember Micallef coming up to me just before the AGM telling me that she's stepping down and telling me that I should put my hand up as vice president. And so I did. I was happy to do it. And so suddenly became vice president. And then it was only about a month after that I had breakfast with Peter, who was the president at the time.
And who, Peter, what's his surname?
It's going...
Peter Stevens.
Peter Stevens, yes, yes.
Who we've interviewed on Ben TV years ago. Yep.
Yeah, Peter Stevens is amazing. Did some great work at Globe as well.
But you took it to the next level, though, David. You know, like obviously, you know, you took his role. We didn't take it. It came up, and you really took Globe to another level. Would you say that? And I really feel that, because I knew Peter quite well through Globe, but when you got involved, it really became quite a professional outfit.
Yeah, and one of the things that I had a big focus on was community, and kind of engaging with everyone else out there in the community. One of the things that I started to do when I joined Globe, I suddenly started thinking, there must be other people in my position in other groups. I wonder who they are. I wonder what they're doing. So I started meeting people and just going out and meeting some of the presidents from the other groups, and engaged quite a lot with Aaron, who was the chair of Midsummer at the time, and Matt, who was the chair of Pride March at the time. And then I started doing these dinners, Monday nights, just a casual dinner. So any president or vice president of any gay organisation could come along, and we just kind of all introduce ourselves, talk about what it is we're working on in our groups, and just have dinner and a casual chat. The amount of work that was going on in the community, and mostly unrecognised. It just blew my mind how passionate everyone was about the community.
But what happened is, like Globe, through Peter, had really established itself, and those monthly get-togethers, huge. Like hundreds of people go to them.
Yeah.
But as I said, what you did, you made it. And I've found out now, I didn't realise about these Monday night get-together with all the other organisations. You made Globe a sort of like the umbrella organisation for all of those smaller organisations to gather under, and supporting them so much with the grants that you started to do, and made it special.
Exactly. It was, we kind of for a little while became a de facto umbrella organisation. I mean, now there's a Pride Centre, there's the Commissioner, there's the Equality Office as well that have those roles. But for a little while, we did play that role of an umbrella organisation to actually just bring the community together. And what it meant was the grants went back to Peter's time, but what we started to do was to put a bit more focus into fundraising for those grants, and really lifting the amount of grants that we could give. We ended up, so the one thing that was born out of those meetings was actually the Community Awards. So the Globe Community Awards actually came out of those meetings, where I was just amazed at all the work going on, and just how a lot of it was going unrecognised. And so I remember testing it with a few of them to see, are there any awards events that happen? And so I then came up with the idea of doing the awards, which was a hard sell to the board, but I get my way.
Hey, you get your way. Good president. Those awards became huge. Like it was the big night out in our community here in Melbourne, and a grand night. Like everyone dressed up. It was black tie, and you always had it. They still do, although because of COVID. Always in a great venue, and it's So congratulations on that.
Thank you. And that was and I had a few people say to me over the time when I was developing the awards, let's just do it at the bar in, in one of the queer venues. And I always had it in my head that I thought the work that's going on in the community is so deserving that I actually wanted to be as high level as possible, while obviously making it still accessible to those groups, making sure that the award ceremony reflected the level of the work that they do. So I always was adamant that it had to be a sit-down gala dinner at a fabulous venue, that it was going to be a night where people can actually stop for the night and just celebrate the work that they do.
And the honour of over the years, like meeting so many of the people that were nominated, they were honoured. And and community groups in regional areas as well that would come into Melbourne for it. It became it still is very prestigious.
Yeah. From the first year, it broke even the first year. We made profit every year after, and that's where it started to really feed into our grants, because what we decided on with the community awards was that any money that we make from it goes directly back into community. So we suddenly went from giving out grants of about $2,000 to the community every year to about $30,000. That we, by the time I left, we were giving out about $30,000 in grants every year. Yeah,
congratulations again. You did a great job. So you stood down from being president, but you stayed involved there for a while.
Yeah.
But not satisfied with that, you all of a sudden looked at one of the other big groups within the LGBTIQ community, the Melbourne Queer Film Festival.
Yeah.
Now you're co-president of that now, but you were involved in it for a while before, weren't you? Why did you take on, or is it because you just can't help yourself? Why did you take on co-president?
Yeah, it is because I can't help myself. I have this trouble saying no, especially when it comes to work. So I joined the board. It was about 4 years ago that I joined the board, and Andrew Fisher, who was on the board of MQFF, but was also a regular Globe member, had called me up one day and said, "Look, we're looking for people for the board. I know you're starting to step down from Globe. Would you be interested in joining us?" And ended up joining that year. They were really quite interested in my background in marketing and PR, so we started helping out on the marketing subcommittee and doing the board for MQFF, even though we've got staff who run the festival. The board takes some operational roles, or did at the time. We're now moving to more of a governance board, but at the time was actually still heavily involved in running the festival and kind of filling gaps where there weren't skills within the team.
Well, you still do some of the marketing for it, don't you?
Yeah. So I still do some of the marketing and publicity for the festival, especially for this last one that we just or the one we're currently having as well. So I kind of help out in that regards. And then eventually the role of co-president did come up because Scott ended up retiring at last AGM.
Melbourne Queer Film Festival is like kicking goals all the time, and the quality of what they're doing. Spiro, head of programming, is doing a wonderful job. Now, I mentioned that you're lecturing at RMIT only part-time, and you're doing a PhD. What are you doing it on?
So my PhD is focused on the intersection between health communication, which in COVID times very important, and online games. So I'm specifically I'm looking at how you can use online games and things that are related to online games, like esports and streaming, which has become a big thing especially for younger people. But I'm looking at how you can use those channels to engage young people, those usually 18 to 25, in positive health messages and try to influence their health behaviours.
Because that would be a big issue. Because you're not doing enough. A PhD, of course. How far into it are you?
I'm in my second year.
Right.
So,
how many? Is it 5? 5 years? Or?
No, 3 to 4 years.
3 to 4, right.
They've now gotten a bit stricter on getting people to finish after 3-4 years, rather than you used to be able to be doing your PhD for 8-9 years, but now they're quite strict about making sure that you finish within 3-4 years full time.
How are you finding the workload? Are you are you comfortable with it? Are you feeling that you're getting somewhere with it? Or
look, I'm definitely getting somewhere. Doing a PhD is an interesting self-reflection piece, because it's kind of, I find the difference between when you're studying your undergrad or a postgrad, where you're being taught how to think, but there is still structure there. Whereas with a PhD, and my supervisors tell me this all the time, the thing that you are researching, no one has ever done before, so there is no rule book and there is no structure around it. So you're kind of like trying to make up your own structure while learning about the thing that you're building the structure of it. So you're trying to build a plane while flying it, essentially. So it's an interesting process to go through, because you are very self-reliant.
And that's why so many people pull out along the way. Congratulations on all you've given to the LGBTIQ community, and I know that you'll continue in so. And once you've got your doctorate, I'll take you to another level. I'm sure it will. David Micallef, thank you so much for chatting with us on Ben TV today.
Thank you for having me, David.
My pleasure. I'm David Hunt. Yes, you've been watching Ben TV, and we'll see you again real soon. Bye.